Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Kicking Back podcast. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Jenn Clempner.
Aw,
Hey
thanks.
Jenn,
Hiya.
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good today, actually.
Yeah?
I'm really, really grateful to be here.
Yeah, you know what, it was kind of a semi-last minute thing, but I'm glad that we managed to figure this out. I think
Yeah.
we're going to talk about some good stuff today.
Yeah, hope so.
So Jenn, for the people at home that don't know who you are, do you want to give us a little bit about what it is you do?
Yeah, so I guess right now at the moment, quite a few things. But historically, I'm, for all intents and purposes, a musician.
Yeah.
I'm a singer, vocalist, and pianist. Singer, vocalist is exactly the same thing. I actually meant to say vocalist, pianist. I'm running on very little sleep. It's my excuse for everything. And I used to be a session musician. I haven't done that for a while, so that's that's a past. And I do a bit of directing for choirs and bands and musical direction, and for theatre. I play a few instruments: piano, flute, percussion.
Oh, flute.
Keyboard. Yeah, I know. That only came up recently. I kind of forgotten about it. But yeah, apparently I'm a flautist. And then I teach privately. And I've got my own independent singing school. And then, which I've been running for a number of years. And then I got into higher education teaching 11 years ago now, I think. And so I work with the Royal Northern College of Music, where I met your fine self and selves.
Yes.
And been there for, I think I'm on my 5th or 6th year there now, doing stuff to do with. My official job title now is Artist Development Specialist.
Ooh.
And it can only be said, obviously, with a plum in the mouth.
That sounds very fancy.
I felt like I had to say it with a plum in the mouth, otherwise I sound like a complete wanker. So yeah, so many things. And I'm a researcher, and I'm a mum. Probably most importantly, I should have started with that.
That's number one.
Mum
Number one.
To two lovely, lovely people.
Oh, that warms my cold, dead heart.
It's important. It's important to say that's part of my identity.
Yeah, of course,
Sorry.
of course.
It's also hardest job in the world.
Of course. So, how did you? Let's wind back to the beginning, Jenn.
Yeah.
How did you get into like doing the music stuff? Did you come from a musical background with your family and that?
Yeah, I did. Really good question. I was going to say, I guess like everybody, but I guess I've learnt from meeting lots of musicians, there's no kind of one trajectory or route with the whole musician thing. But I took lessons from being really little. In fact, according to my mum, I kicked my older brother off the piano when I was 4. He was having lessons, and I did the associated board grades, and then got to like GCSE, and you had to take your. Did you have that? We had to take your options, and you could only do like one art.
Oh, you could only do one art.
Yeah, I could only do one art subject.
I think we could do whatever the hell we wanted.
So I had to choose, and I went the theatre route, so I went drama.
Okay.
So I actually went off to uni to study theatre.
Right.
And drama, honestly, because doing music wasn't cool at the time. That's really sad to say.
What?
I know. But at my high school, just being a musician and doing the music thing wasn't cool. And anyway, that's a whole separate podcast. But I guess the important thing is that I went off professionally to do theatre and study theatre and acting, and I did both a BA and an MA, and then it just coming out of doing my MA, and actually no, still doing it. And I used to just play randomly around London. I did like a few gigs singing and playing.
Right.
Just for fun, for hobby.
Yeah.
And a kind of tenuous link connection got in touch with me, said, "Oh, my mate's in the band, and they're looking for like a backing singer. Do you like be interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay, whatever." Thinking it wasn't really a big deal, and they hooked me up, and I went down to studio. They're like really famous studios in London. I can't remember now where they are. It'll come to me in the middle of the podcast.
Just shout it out randomly.
Yeah, it's there because everyone has like rehearsed or recorded there at some point. And went for what I thought was a jam, and it was an audition fundamentally. Okay. And they weren't really looking for a backing singer; they were looking for a keyboard player. Anyway, because I was kind of quite cash about it, they took to me, and they it turned out they were signed to Sony BMG,
Right.
which even then I didn't really get what a big deal that was. And their manager gave me a call and said, we want you to sign a retainer for the band and commit to working and touring with them live for the next 6 months.
Right.
The band were called the Hoosiers. I can see you've written it down.
And
you'll see it on my website as well.
I'll just tick that one
tick
off.
that one off now.
Done.
Which actually, like, there was a point kind of in my adult life and in teaching where if I said that word and all, I say the kids, but all the students would go, oh, like, no way.
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
it's like, sorry, who? Sorry, fellas, if you listen to this at any point. And it was like my kind of like calling call. Anyway, so it was complete. So I was very, very fortunate. I basically fell into being a session musician for them.
That's cool.
And into working for a major record label. And it was the 3 guys and just me playing keyboards and doing backing singing and learned everything from ear.
Right.
No dots, no chords, no sheets.
Good.
And then I did it for a year with them. Yeah.
Right. That must have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, it really was, and completely unexpected.
Was it quite a sort of departure from, I guess, obviously you were just doing like bargain stuff.
Yeah.
Did you feel comfortable in doing that, or was it sort of like you just jumped in and just got on with it?
Surprisingly, I did. I think so. Music has been the underlying theme and the thing I can't escape from, and I've kept coming back to my whole life. And I guess in one way, shape, or form is the one thing I'm good at. And so it felt really natural just to be playing.
Yeah,
felt natural to be performing as well. And I guess from a musical perspective as well, I didn't, because I had no formal training. I had no judgment or pretension about whether it was difficult or whatever. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed fundamentally being with them and hanging out with them. They were a good bunch of lads, and also I was just really green about the industry. So I generally have the character that you just treat everyone the same, with same kind of like warmness and respect. So it was easy for me in that respect. I guess the shock came in terms of learning the realities of the music industry, learning what it meant to actually be a session musician, which you guys will know about, and is incredibly hard work, or can be incredibly hard work, and there's a lot of pressure. I learned about the realities of being a minority, so I was generally always the only girl in the room.
Right.
The only female session musician I came across ever. And then the realities of being on tour just from a physical and mental point of view. Wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
And then I think I did have some amazing experiences. So when you reel them off as kind of like in a CV type of way, or you tell the story. And I remember my friends at the time actually were like, my friend Jenn, and she's a rock star, and it's really glamorous, and they were really proud and excited by what I was doing, and got to be on TV and stuff. And I was quite nonchalant about that, I think, because I think maybe my instinct was like, if I get phased about this, then it maybe becomes so much more of a big deal that I can't handle it. And also I was just playing their stuff, and I don't know, just the realities of it is it's way less glamorous than it appears, which I could go into way more detail, and I guess is relevant to
obviously about. Like I know sort of what you're talking about, but I guess Joe Blogs on the street doesn't really. Yeah, they just see the other side of it, don't they?
Totally.
So like, what sort of things? So
the realities are, it's I guess being in the spotlight, it's very kind of visual, aesthetic world. So I struggled with like being seen and like being observed like all the time. So and then there's an adrenaline that goes with like playing in front of people.
Yeah.
Every night. So I'd experienced massive highs and massive lows. So just say for example, we go on stage, we do a cracking show. The Hoosiers were a band. They had tracks. They played to track.
Right.
And their first album is fantastic. Actually, I'm not just saying that, but it was like everything was just like really really tight. And I remember we did live at Maida Vale, obviously big deal. And a really big deal to the guys, and it's their band, it was their baby, and it was their record. So I was working for them, and there was a point where actually that realization hit that I wasn't their mate, and I was their employee, I guess, effectively, and my job was to make them look good. It wasn't, I wasn't the artist. I'm not the pivotal figure. And when it came to Maida Vale, I think nerves got the better of me with that realization. And it was live on camera, but there wasn't any room for error, especially in terms of like their music. And I remember playing it, and I remember like noticing like all the fuck ups that I made and stuff. And their producer, who was Toby Rafferty, I think that was his surname. He was a former keyboard player for Jamiroquai.
Okay.
Actually passed away a couple of years ago, really sadly. And had a reputation for being quite hard-nosed, and he produced their whole album, pulled me to one side and basically said, not acceptable. Like that's not what we've brought you on board to do, and said you need to put way more hours in practicing and working to click. And I was like, yes, Toby. No, Toby, 3 bags, all Toby. And it was really scary. Basically, it was an ultimatum. It was like, you can't afford to fuck up again, and you'll lose your job. And it was my job. It was my full-time job. It was paying the rent and everything else. And but then he suggested that I played to click without the keyboard. So we had a BPM, and I got a little like electronic battery operated metronome, and I would basically just mark out the key, the chord sequences with my hands.
Right.
So something like Worried About Ray. I remember the intro. Oh my gosh, it like flashes over me. It was a do, truth be told. And it's keyboard led, and so I basically do that, like listen to the click in my headphones backstage every night, and just map out the chord sequences to each tune, just to a metronome, so it wasn't actually with a keyboard or music. And it's kind of fairly kind of brutal, and the upside is I'm like a human metronome. So I'm very sensitive to So I did in later years as a like choir director. I'd be like, no, you're offbeat. I'm like, oh, we definitely were. You were. Because, I've just got that ingrained, like, sense of pulse.
Yeah.
So that was hard. It was really lonely for me because I was the only girl. Not that should make any difference, but I guess just I didn't have any, like, companions on tour with me. I was far away from family. I guess there was an element of people were so proud of me and thought it was really glamorous, and I was really fortunate. Jen's so lucky to have this opportunity, and I know now especially people would give their right leg to have that opportunity, and so I didn't feel like I deserved to have anything to complain about, but and so I never actually would say like I'm bored or I'm lonely or I'm frustrated, or wish the guys were nicer to me, or wish I had this. I didn't want to kind of complain, so I just generally stayed quiet. And we had a strict no drinking before show policy, so it's not very rock and roll. And then generally like no after show. I mean, occasionally we kind of let our hair down, but because it was like back-to-back nights, you couldn't really afford to be hanging the next day. And then it was just generally rough getting on a tour bus and then setting off for the next city if you're like blazing drunk or if you've got a hangover or stuff. So not saying that alcohol's what makes the kind of rock and roll bus go round, but
you got to blow off some steam.
Yeah,
surely,
there wasn't a so especially on tour, my days would generally consist of like waking up in a strange city, and I'd go and explore and take pictures and do some shopping, and they'd have like general they'd have like maybe a press interview or like they'd have album band stuff to do. And then being completely honest, which I always am, the more they kind of catapulted in terms of their success and fame, the more isolated I became because we had to have that separation. There was a lot of questions in the press of like, who is the girl in the background? And I actually made a really fatal error once of texting into Capital Radio. It was when their single release was coming up, and I thought, I'll do the guys a favour. I'll text in and say like, you need to play their tune. And I said, like, I thought, they'd be more likely to do it if I say, like, it's Jenn there. And the next thing, my phone rings and it was Capital Radio. And they basically interviewed me live on air. Well, their band manager went ape shit. And you can feel that as like musicians, can't you? But me, green, 22, 23, was like, I just didn't think anything of it. And then also when the phone rang and I answered it, and I was actually in a cab on the way to the ICA to do iTunes gig, and anyway, they were fuming. And I get it now, but I didn't at the time, and there were loads of like errors that I made like that, and I was young and didn't really know if it was what I wanted to do. It was just like, people must be listening to me going like, this chick, is she for real? Come on, be grateful. But those were the realities in terms of my experience.
And I guess, well, what did you learn from that experience?
I learned a lot about what you need to be a touring musician on a personal level. So I learned that actually that support unit sounds really cliched. In fact, I'll interject there, and I've repeated this to quite a few students along the way. My brother was a professional drummer as well. I remember speaking to him somewhere along the road on tour, and had some like quite dark moments, and dealt with it in not great ways on occasion as well. And I think it was possibly after like one of those, and I was just like, Dan, how do you? Sorry, I shouldn't say his name, but how do you? How did you deal with this? And he said, like, it's not human to have these like major highs and major lows. Like, so you're basically constantly being thrown up and down. It's no wonder that like you end up feeling mentally unstable and feeling like you've lost a grip of reality and all the rest of it. He said that basically when you have the really amazing shows and you're on a complete high and the euphorium gets to you, and even, your ego's inflated and you're thinking, yes, I feel amazing. And it's like, and it's so great that you did such a good job. You consciously level yourself, like you bring yourself down and go, it was my job. It's my job to play a good gig. It's my job to play the tunes. It's my job to kind of show up and give the audience what they want, and kind of bring yourself down a peg or two and level it out. But equally, when you have the major lows of like everything went wrong, the producer pulled me up, and I spoke to Capital Radio. I wasn't supposed to, and everyone's really cross with me. Is to bring yourself up again and go, okay, you're human, you make mistakes. This is like part of what being an artist makes. I'm sure he didn't use those words particularly if he ever listens to this and goes like, I don't remember saying that at all. That's the memory that I have of that conversation, and it was one of the most like helpful pieces of advice that I ever got, and I relate to students. So that was a critical one. I learned a lot about the business of the music industry. I had no idea how to negotiate a retainer. I probably could have been paid an awful lot more money if I did. I had no idea about rights for being broadcast on television or radio. So I had to figure that all out for myself. I had no idea how to manage myself. Clearly, speaking to radio, when you're not the artist and you're a session musician, I had no idea that wasn't. Sorry, I keep bashing the table. I'm in a little swing. I had no idea that was like not okay. And and then I learned fundamentally that reputation precedes you really frighteningly quickly. And one of the things I am actually proud of is that although I did fuck up and I did make mistakes and I wasn't a professional or trained by any means, I had a reputation for being a likable, cheerful soul and generally conducting myself in a not horrendous kind of way. And then when I finished my contract at the end of the year, and which was kind of a mutual agreement of them, I think them realizing they needed someone who was going to be in the background session musician, and they had a guy who'd worked with them on an album and he was available and it made sense. But also I'd kind of come to the end where I thought, actually, this isn't sustainable for me, I don't think, emotionally. And then I thought, I don't want to be that Hoosiers girl in the background for the rest of my career. And I wanted to see if anyone else would hire me. And they did, because I had a reputation for being good and reliable and likable. So I got a fair bit of work off the back of that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's obviously you were young and stuff, but it's strange that that sense of feeling vulnerable is like you kind of deny yourself. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like when I did it as well when I was younger. I'm a bit more with it now, but just like feeling like, oh, I shouldn't feel like this, and do you know what I mean? And you were thrown in the deep end on this sort of in this journey.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if like now in the industry, if there's a bit more support for that sort of thing, or if it is still just a bit cold and. Do you know what I mean? It's the machine at the end of the day, isn't it? Like if you're not a part of the cog that keeps turning, let's get another one and throw that in, and it's
funny you should
strange.
say that because obviously now I say obviously, but now my relationship with the industry, or I guess the perspective that I get of it and access I get of it is as an industry professional, I guess more like a consultant kind of level.
Yeah.
So I do collaborate with more industry professionals, I guess from an informative point of view rather than as a musician, and then as an educator. And you'd be surprised actually, considering how far we have come in terms of conversation around like mental health and well-being, how many people still go, like, I shouldn't feel like this. In fact, only recently, like there's quite a few students of mine who were gigging and working with bands and got some really great opportunities, and they find themselves kind of saying that it's tough, and then they go, but I shouldn't say that, like don't, but, and they kept coming back to the but, and I kind of end up interrupting them and go, no, like you've got to have permission to say, like that doesn't mean that you're not grateful.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that you're an asshole because there's someone else out there who wants this more or whatever. It's not. I don't think our feelings are comparable really to one another. But the other thing that I've learned as well is that the industry is still a bit of a bitch. Like it has changed in loads of ways, but certainly in my opinion, there still seems to be this like culture of industry moogles where it's really important to look cool, and it's really important to behave, and it's really important to be likable, and there's a lot of name dropping, and there's it's the next niche thing, and I don't know what I'm talking about really. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I get what you mean. There's still that. I mean, it's particularly in like the pop industry. It's like, I don't know. It's the shiny plastic packaging on top of like a CD case. Do you know what I mean? That veneer is still there, isn't it? I think there's
a lot of chat, like
there's a lot of bullshit.
There's a lot of bullshit, and there's a lot of small talk, and I think sadly as well, like because it is a money driven enterprise as well. There's a lot of schmoozing and kind of like, I've got to impress this person. I remember someone, won't name names, saying to me like, Jen, best behavior, like that person's a VIP, and I'm like, everyone's a fucking VIP, man. Like, I'm not gonna like be better or be nicer or try harder with someone because it's important to impress them. That's my perspective anyway. So, and I see that a lot kind of secondhand through like students going in and then coming in and liaising with industry professionals as well. That said, I do think there is a much clearer kind of framework and community within the industry of like, it feels like it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, of authenticity. And like, basically just really decent, interesting, good, hardworking people who love music and care about music and just want to make really good music. And that's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah. I do wonder, like with these, obviously you needing to be in a certain type of person stuff, does it actually come naturally to some people? Or is it just like something that you have to, do you know what I mean? Because obviously,
what do you think? Like that's just who they are.
Yeah, or just like, do you know what I mean? Like the schmoozing and all that. Like, are there actually people that are out there that could just go in and do it and they don't even think twice about it? Or is it just like, because I couldn't do that. No way.
I think it's all perception as well, isn't it? Because I'm the same. I would say I really hate that stuff.
Yeah.
But I've had it said to me from the outside, like, oh, but Jen, but you're so confident and you're so articulate and you seem to be really good at that stuff. And I still like completely disagree. I think part of my downfall as well is that like I do have this tendency to just say it as is, and I just like, it's like a tap that you switch on and then you go, oh shit, it's broken, you can't turn it off. Someone turn it off. So yeah, I have like the danger, I guess. Like I'm a bit of a wild card of that transparency, and that in the industry sometimes isn't acceptable or like
Yeah.
okay. And whereas other people like are able to like switch on, switch off, and or they put the hat on and then they take it off at the end of the day,
Mm.
and I present, I guess, like so, and I do still see it, and I actually think it is a skill
It definitely
and a
is. Yeah.
valuable skill, but I guess the bigger question is like, when do you call bullshit, and
Yeah.
when do, or maybe more importantly, like you got to think about how that makes other people feel about themselves. Because I think for me, being in that, I got so tired of the bullshit, and I got so tired of feeling like I had to try and fit a certain shape or a certain
Mm.
expectation, and I don't know, like maybe this is relevant or irrelevant, but like I remember asking with the Hoosiers, I was like, do I like have a costume, or because they had a branding that was in terms of like their fashion
Yeah.
and identity that was quite quirky, and as they became more successful, they got dressed and stuff, and I didn't have any of that.
Oh,
So
tiny
I had to dress
violin.
myself, which was quite fun on the one hand, but then daunting on the other hand. And I was going to say, especially as a female, but actually probably just as hard for a guy. But I said, what do I wear? And they're like, short skirts, heels, boom. Like someone said that to me now, but fuck off.
I'm
and like,
glad.
whereas I was like, okay. Like,
yeah.
I remember I worked for a record label at some point. You can ask me about that if you want. And my boss told me to, you could maybe sexy it up a bit, Jen. And I was like, all right, because that's what you do as a female. That's what
You're
you
expected to
do.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You play the game, and I played the game a bit, but then towards the end of the year, I was like, this is really breaking me down, and that's one of the things I'm not okay compromising anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. And also,
Mm.
we all do these things, try things out, and realize that's not for me. And
Yeah.
same with
Totally.
me. Like I thought music was for me, and it's not.
It's not.
It's definitely not. Again, it's just all the bullshit attached to it. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
and that's
it's
all
not
right.
me. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with saying I give it a go, and
Yeah, totally.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was the record label? It's called. What was it? I'm going to see if I can remember. Beats, row,
Root?
roots,
Yeah.
Beatroute,
Beetroot.
like a beetroot.
Ah, just got that.
You've only just got that now.
No, I think I got it a while ago, but I forgot.
And now it's just
But
come
then
back
it's just
again.
like, I've been sleep deprivation over the last 3 years. I've been robbed of many things, and beetroot has been one of them. Yeah, I always thought of it like two separate words of like beet and root, which is how they. Yeah, so Beatroute Records. I was again do reputation. It's one of the things I do love about like music, and I've talked to a few students about recently. Is like the whole thing of like, oh, I've got a mate who plays that, like, or I'm not available, but my mate will deck for me, or like the
Yeah.
reputation thing of like word by mouth is really, really powerful. It gets you a lot of gigs. So I got contacted. I can't even remember by who, to do some, was it backing vocals initially, and then they found out I played the flute, and then it was like, oh, do you want to play flute on this EP?
Right.
So I basically got brought in to record an EP for one of the artists who was on Beatroute. It was called, actually no, was it John? I think it was for the artist John McEwen, but he was also in a band. He fronted a band called Hero.
Right.
Let's just say it, worst band name ever.
Well, I don't know. I've heard worse ones than that, Jen. I
Go on.
I can't remember it like on top of my head now. But I normally ask people about like they're like teenage band names,
Yeah.
and guaranteed like 95% of the time it's just the worst.
The
worst. But I mean, Hero is pretty
pretty
poor. Not very
isn't it?
inventive.
But they were lovely guys again. But anyway, so I got brought in to do an EP and with their artists, and then it was a strange thing, really, and again a learning curve that especially like independent record labels, they need to have money coming in from somewhere.
Yeah.
So you often get private investors or private owners, or just not a lot of money, really. You do it for the love of it. And the artist was also a private investor.
Okay.
So him and his partner actually bought Beatroute Records, and restructured it. And in the restructure, I happened to kind of be between jobs, and they were like, "Hey Jen, come and work for us," which I'm really grateful for. And it was actually a really exciting time because they had some like really cool offices in Camden, and I'd done a fair bit of admin and kind of geek out a bit on organisation and stuff. And I don't know, I was I was quite a excitable little puppy. It was like just really keen and eager to just you know, I'll do work and whatever. So I ended up working for them alongside recording for them as well. And then so it worked kind of quite nicely hand in hand with session musician stuff. And then,
Right. So what were you doing? Is it just admin stuff?
It was
or
admin.
Management.
It was admin to begin with.
Right. Okay.
And then I'm saying this with a laugh. I basically I don't like using the word the B word, BOSSY, when referring to, well, just generally referring to girls particularly. But I was that. I can be quite like I take initiative, and I had good kind of management skills and stuff, and we brought a few other people in, and he basically promoted me and said, like, Jen, I want you to manage the label.
Right.
So
okay.
again, I had no idea what I was doing. But actually I do look back on that and go, I think I did a pretty fine job.
Yeah.
So we there was a small team of us. 2 of us were musicians, another one was a drummer, and he did A&R alongside session drumming as well. And yeah, our job was to like build up an artist roster. So we had quite a fun time, like basically going to loads of gigs in London and trying to like scout bands and bring them on to the label, which in my time that I was there, we never succeeded in doing. We had a few.
I thought you said you were good at the job.
I was good. Well, it was very organised. Well, no, we had John. We had John on the label.
Yeah.
So I managed John's album campaign.
Right.
And so I had to learn how to like, how the hell do you get someone to do artwork for a label? And then how do you organise streaming and distribution and then radio? And I actually, don't ask me please, because I can't remember. But I had to learn how to do that from scratch. And I'm with this small team, and and we brought on a guy to do like, it's basically do our digital management and website and stuff. And I can't remember. And we put out an advert, and we brought in a guy. I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he's now working for Warner Brothers, like pretty high up, and that was his like first job in like record. And I'm quite proud of that. And he was a really decent guy and really bloody good at what he did as well. So and then obviously I've gone on to do what I've gone on to do, and our A&I guy, I think, is still like session drumming and stuff. So it was a tiny team, and we nearly got Anna Calvi. Have you come across Anna Calvi?
I've heard of the name.
Look her up. She's really amazing.
What's the vibe?
The vibe is 3-piece.
Yeah.
Electric guitar led front woman. Electric guitar more a soundscape than like melodic, like lead rhythm instrument. And drummer and percussionist, and lots of like, I think that she had what's that, steel pan drum.
Oh yeah.
I think she played one of those, and she's got a really big voice, Anna, and lots of kind of like droney, like drawn out sides, but quite like edgy and rocky as well. And percussive. I thought there's quite a lot of vibe there going on.
That was like one of the best descriptions of a band that I've ever heard.
I'm a real musician.
Yeah,
right.
like whenever like I ask people like, oh, I've not heard that band, what they like, they're like, oh, it's like kind of like indie rock or something.
Bit like Oasis. But
yeah,
not.
That was so. I could almost hear it in my head, Jen. That was wonderful.
Well, now you have to go and listen to it, and you'll go, yeah, it doesn't sound like that.
Nowhere near.
I was a big fan of Anna, actually, and I couldn't tell you why we didn't. I remember being very frustrated why we didn't manage to get her on board and stuff. So we nearly had her. I basically got to the end of the year, and I guess it's all kind of like relevant into what I'm doing now, and suffered massive burnout, massive like living in London. I think I was on like the 7th year living in London. Working hard, partying hard. Not earning a great deal, and a bit of kind of like, actually, I'm not really sure. And the very like industry all the time, and having to learn to do a record label management job on my own from scratch with no kind of like professional mentoring or support or direction or anything. No disrespect to Beatroute and to the guys who took me on, because it actually was an amazing opportunity, and they supported me as best they could. So I decided to take some time out, and I got signed off sick by my doctor with stress and anxiety, and took a bit of a sabbatical, in inverted commas, back home up north. So I came back to spend some time with my parents, and actually realised it was what I really needed, was to step back.
Yeah.
And actually doing that and coming back to London, it was like for the first time my ears suddenly went, whoa, it's noisy here. And people are like rude.
I
Never bothered me before.
No, I mean, I always thought when I started the music journey, I was like, right, finish uni, go out to London, do that thing, and then just got there, and I was just like,
it's not a thing, guys.
No,
you don't have to do it.
I hated it.
Looking at the camera, don't do it. Yeah, it's funny how it is like a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I went because I fell in love with the city. So I mean, lots of cities are like this, but they do say when you're a Londoner and you catch the bug, and it is really infectious, and you cannot imagine life outside of it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people still like that, and they say, you ask them the $1 million question, oh, would you ever think of leaving London? No, what? Leaving London? The countryside's nice and pleasant, and there's lots of other things that are interesting and fanciful to see outside of it, but existing and having, an actual life outside of London. And yeah, I was one of those, and I liked being lonely. I liked kind of being a lone wolf. I got used to like ridiculous commutes across the city to go and see a friend, and I didn't notice people being rude. I didn't notice the noise or the dirt or anything. I didn't notice the expense, because it was all I ever knew in terms of my adult life. And it was just suddenly like my senses kind of became alert to that.
Yeah.
And I was tired, and I'd had enough, and wanted to come home.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
fair.
So I it was less of a decision to leave Beatroute Records and more of a decision to leave London and regroup.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I hate rude people.
I struggle with it now.
Yeah.
So I go down and I get really like anxious, and I urgent. London, me and my husband joke about it when we go, London hates couples and wants them to die. You can't walk around holding hands in London. You're constantly being like separated, or having to like
around.
work at different speeds. So
and also like I just think, because I'm big on like meditation and like presence, and being
really cool.
being here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not being up here, or I just think all these people like running around and stuff. It's like, are any of you like paying attention to actually what's going on right now?
Yeah.
And like where's your head, and what? Because London is a beautiful city. There are really beautiful things, but and I get it even here. Like I'll just like walk around the city, and there's like a beautiful sunset or something, or some birds flying around, and there's people just like on the phone or whatever. I'm just like, you're missing it.
Yeah.
You're here once, if you believe that, and you're just going to spend the rest of your life just seeing how great everyone else's life is. Wow, look at that, and just like I don't know, that whole city just gives off that vibe to me. I just can't connect with that at all.
Yeah, you sound very grounded.
Yeah,
I really admire that. I need a bit of that.
I like simplicity. You know.
Yeah, but you're right. It does lack that kind of in the moment being present, and I couldn't put my finger on why that is exactly. It's not just a city mentality. There's something quite unique to London.
It's that thing of like we're human beings, not human doings. And it's very much a city of doing, isn't it? It's a work city.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get lost in that thing. And I do it myself with my work and stuff, but at least there's space to step back and kind of you need to reset. I think our mind is like it's like a machine, or a and you can't just have that running constantly, because you just crash.
Yeah.
You need to like stop, like cool down, give yourself some space, and then you can do your work better, and you can be a better person, and you can be more attentive to people, and life's a bit better. I think.
I think over time I've realised like the importance of environment, and it's so I guess with the Hoosiers experience, and I guess just living down there for so long as well, it's one of the things that I reflect back in mentoring, in terms of like people making the next career choices, the next professional choices, and they tend to be led by like what's going to make me most successful or what's going to look best or whatever. And actually, I try to encourage others more towards like that, like what do you need like as a person to thrive? I'm talking about like the physical environment, so how much air is around you. It might be that you need green stuff, you need you need outdoorness, or
Yeah.
and then you often end up talking about the people who are around you, and I'm I'm a people person, and a human being, and I like transparency, and I like uh feeling safe, yeah,
Yeah.
within my environment and around other people and stuff. And at the end of the day, I just went where I felt safest at that point in time, and yeah, and still am.
Fair.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do we go? We go from the leap from.
Yeah.
So we've done the London thing. We come up to Manchester.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So you go up to Manchester. Well, is it you
So
studied in
Cheshire.
Cheshire?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
on the outskirts of Manchester. So
Right, cool.
if anyone's heard of it, Knutsford.
Oh, it's very nice around
It is
there,
very nice.
Jen. Wow.
I just happened upon it. Yeah, my cushy parents got themselves a little flat there
Oh, nice.
a few years prior. It was basically kind of like a holiday flat, so we go and spend the weekends there and stuff. It's a jolly good idea, Mum and Dad. And they've ended up settling there, so they live there and have a house there. And but initially I went back just to kind of lodge with them. I was trying to look for the word then. Lodge with them, not live with them. I'm not going home. I'm not moving in with Mum and Dad.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. It was permanent. And actually, a few years later, it was them who were like, "So Jen,
Are you gonna go?
when are you gonna go?" So the idea was, it would be temporary. And actually, to be honest, temporary being up north, it was, I'm just going to spend a bit of time and then I'll go back to London. And then very quickly realised it was the best thing. And then I think it was a year and a half I'd been with them. And I met my husband in Knutsford.
Okay.
He was working in a bar, and I was playing in a bar.
Ah,
So I did get back to music.
Nice.
But I had to start all that from scratch because all my network and my connections and anyone who I played with and knew. And again, I lived in this premise that gigging only existed in London. Shows only existed in London. So learning how to do music and play music and who was going to play with me again was really tough.
Yeah.
And I had to work to earn a living to do other things in lots of other ways first. And so I did bar work, and I was a restaurant host, which basically meant like greeting people at the door. And
I could see you being very good at that, Jen.
yeah, I like. Funnily enough, I was. I mean, I think ideally the job description was be nice to the VIPs, which I just said earlier. I'm shit at. Well, I'm not shit at. I just treat everyone the same. But that's maybe why I was good, is because I treat everyone with the same respect. Generally kind of like warm and chatty, and then actually through that I met someone who played keys, and we got together and started formed a duo, and then got to start playing covers.
Right.
He had all the gear, I didn't have any of the gear, and definitely no idea. Around Knutsford, and Knutsford's actually quite a busy kind of nightlife scene. There's quite a lot of live music and stuff.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky to kind of break into that in the bars. I think it helped working in the bars as well.
Yeah.
Like, we'll give them a go. And we played for we had a duo called Greer and Hume.
Greer and Hume.
Yeah. So when I was an actor, so when I tried to break back into acting, actually, so I had a bit of a kind of existential crisis of like, I'm not doing what I wanted to do, like I'm not very good at music, and I move away from the mic so much, sorry.
That's fine.
Probably like lost half of this conversation. And suddenly thought, I really miss acting. Like, wasn't I supposed to go, like, I was supposed to be an actor, and that never happened. So like the ripe old age of 27, decided to have another shot at being a professional actor again. And you have to have a unique identity as an actor when you go on an online CV form called Spotlight for actors, and there can't be more than one. So there can't be more than one Jen Potter. Can't be more than one Jennifer Potter. And I don't think there was a Jenn Potter, but I worked for the Hoosiers as Jenn Potter. That's my maiden name.
Yeah.
I think maybe I've never delved into this before, but like I think maybe I thought, oh, I need to start again. I need to be something different. So I didn't want to work. Oh no! And actually, someone from the industry advised me that it didn't work as a name. It didn't work. Like, it was too perfunctory. Jenn Potter, and Potter was too masculine. Whatever that is.
Right. Okay.
This is all just coming back to me now. So, and there was already a Jennifer Potter
Right.
acting on Spotlight, so I needed a new name.
So what was you? Did you get?
So I went with Jennifer Greer.
Jennifer Greer. It's a bit more floral, I guess. But
So I operated as that, and then I started teaching an acting school, and I decided to continue operating as that. And so when I joined up with my friends, we used both names and stuff. It worked at the time, and then honestly, when I met my husband and asked me to marry him, I was really grateful to just get rid of all the names and just start over. So yeah, my married name is Clempner, if anyone's wondering where that came from. And to be honest, everyone has always called me Jenn. It feels familiar, it feels home. Not Jenny.
Not Jenny.
Yeah, I have serious aversion to
I'll
Jenny.
write that down. And it's Jenn with two N's.
And it's Jenn with two
As we
N's.
clarified before the podcast. Very important. Very important.
Damn you, 16-year-old me. Yeah. So so I started gigging around the scene in Knutsford with him, and I can't remember what your question was now. I just we're just on Life Story basically.
That is
So I'll
fine.
pause for
So
breath.
I guess, how did you get from, you move up to the north, you're gigging,
Yeah.
and then obviously you move over to teaching in the RNCM.
Yeah. How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Yeah, I know. So I guess most actors and musicians come across have to face the somewhat inevitable prospect of supplementing their career with teaching.
Yeah.
And so as an actor, I came to that, and I had this aversion to teaching because my mum was a teacher. So I was like, I'm not doing what my mum did. Why does everyone do that?
I don't know. My mum always said you're going to be a great music teacher one day. I was like, I'm never teaching music.
Yeah.
Never, ever,
Maybe
ever.
it's like a teenage angst thing.
I
My
think it
mum's
is,
an
yeah.
amazing teacher. And now I'm really proud to follow in her footsteps. But she went early years, and I think anyway, so and people started asking me to teach them singing. I say people random, a sister or a friend of a friend said, oh, have you ever thought of teaching? So I'd started dabbling with a bit of one-to-one teaching. And I basically came across a drama school that was based up north. I really needed the money. And who were looking for a musician and actor to teach music skills to actors. It's quite a specific skill set.
Yeah.
And the industry at that time was in big demand for what they call actor musicians or actor singers.